The Willie Fritz era begins in Houston. There's some optimism about where the program is headed. I don't think you saw that in the Dana Holgerson era, and now Houston has their sights on better things heading into the 2024 season. We're taking a look at the top 10 players, and you have to start with Donovan Smith. This is a guy who is getting NFL attention already. Part of that has to do with his frame. When you stand 6'5" and 235 pounds, you're going to get attention. He has a great frame at the next level. It's just a matter of can he, one, stay healthy and put it all together. He's currently battling an injury, which has allowed a guy like Zion Chris to get more reps. But Donovan Smith, make no mistake about it, is the QB1 for Houston. 2,800 run yards last year, 22 touchdowns. You'd like to see him get his 13 interceptions down. I think that changes. When you look at what the staff did with Michael Pratt, there's reason to believe that Donovan Smith can take that next step. 428 yards, 6 touchdowns on the ground. He's a good runner, so a dual threat that's going to make this offense really fun to watch. Going through a little bit of transition in terms of getting certain guys get up to speed with the transfers they bring in, the new coaching staff. But Donovan Smith, to me, is set for a big year. A guy who's kind of under the radar right now as a running back, Parker Jenkins. Maybe this is too high for him on this list, but when you look at the film, it's easy to see the talent. It's easy to see why this guy is going to be special. 464 yards and 3 touchdowns doesn't necessarily tell you that, but when you watch what this team can do when he is on the field, it's really exciting to see where Houston is going to go in 2024. 5'11", 200 pounds, has good feet, has the ability to make guys miss, can also run people over. I really like the combination that he brings to the table. And with what Willie Fritz wants to do, establishing the run early on is probably going to be a focus. And you pair him with Donovan Smith in that backfield, and Houston is good to go. Now, defensively, this is really where Houston needs to improve. And there's a reason why the previous staff was let go. Last year was really tough to watch, but that doesn't mean that there's not exciting players returning. AJ Halsey is a great safety for Houston. Now, I think he can take another step in terms of his game and get even better, and he'll do that under this new staff. When you look at what Tulane did last year, this is definitely someone who can thrive in this new under this new staff. You have a new offensive coordinator coming in, new defensive coordinator come in along with that new head coach. So that means that you're going to see plenty of exciting things. Now, other players that you can keep an eye on, there's plenty of options in this secondary. I think getting Brian Massey from SMU was a great addition for this team. And there are a number of other players that we'll talk about that will make a big impact. But AJ Halsey is going to be the leader of this defense. He's a natural playmaker, can do a little bit of everything for this defense, a versatile weapon. And that makes things really exciting for a coaching staff that's trying to establish who's going to be their leaders, who's going to be their go-to guys. Halsey is one of them. An underrated addition to me in the transfer portal was getting Kendrick Gant from Louisiana. 6'3", 220 pounds. You talk about the definition of playmaker, he was exactly that. 64 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 6 sacks, 3 passes defended, 3 fumble recoveries, 3 forced fumbles. This guy knows how to get the ball back to his offense. He knows how to be disruptive, and that's huge for a team that needs to be much better. When you look at the stats defensively for Houston last year, it was abysmal at times. There was an obvious struggle on the defensive side of the ball and had nothing to do with the talent and everything to do with the fact that this group just could not play well together. And now you have a new coaching staff coming in. You get to do a little bit of a reset, which is great because I think when you look at what this team can do, Shelwood is going to do a lot of good things. He did a lot of great things at Tulane. He's going to get this team up to speed, and Gant could have a big year if he finds the right fit in this defense. One of the more slept on wide receivers in college football is Joseph Manjack IV. 577 yards and 6 touchdowns. So obviously the production isn't screaming, get me under the spotlight. But this man catches passes with no gloves. He plays the game with no gloves. Absolute insane to be able to do that at the collegiate level. And he's a reliable pass catcher. He has been a reliable player for Houston the last couple years, and he is back for one final season. 6'3", 205 pounds. This is going to be a fun offense to watch. When you look at the wide receiver options that Houston has returning, as well as who they added in the transfer portal, you have a number of players that could have a big year. We'll talk about Stephon Johnson in a little bit. You have other players that come in via the transfer portal. Mekhi Muse could have a big year, and Marquise Shoulders comes in from Tulsa. Even tight end Malik Carr is someone that everyone is excited about. I think that was one of the better additions in the transfer portal. We'll just see what he can do in terms of being a contributor to this offense. Coming with Fritz and staff to this team is Keith Cooper, a guy who had 8.5 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. This was the defense in Tulane that had a number of playmakers. So the production for a lot of guys wasn't maybe what you expected, but this is someone who can be disruptive. This is someone who is probably just scratching the surface on what he can do. The question is going to be, how can he handle life in the Big 12 versus the AAC? Playing for Tulane is a little bit different than playing for Houston because of the competition that you're going to face, but he is a veteran who is going to play at a high level, and he's going to help these other new guys that are coming in to get up to speed. We talked about Zeon Chris earlier, and he's getting a lot of valuable reps in the spring. He'll get a lot more valuable reps in the fall as well, and it's going to elevate the floor for Houston's quarterback room. This is someone who had a great season for Louisiana last year, 1,200 yards passing, 11 touchdowns, nearly 500 yards rushing, and 6 more scores. It'll be fun to see what he can do with this staff. It'll be fun to see what this staff can do with him, how they can get him up to speed, and also what he can do with Donovan Smith, like I said, recovering from his injury. Chris is getting a great opportunity to showcase what he can do. And I think at worst case is you sit behind Donovan Smith, you learn for a little while, and then next year it's your time to shine. You get to show what you can do. And if you can thrive within, the spring practices and then get your reps in the fall and push Donovan Smith as much as you can, the 2025 season will be really fun to watch for Houston. We mentioned Stephon Johnson, and while his stats don't necessarily scream that he's going to be a starter, we saw the potential in his game. We saw what he's capable of doing, and the former Oklahoma State transfer just needs an opportunity. Now you lose a couple of players with Samuel Brown off to Miami via the transfer portal. Stephon Johnson has a big opportunity to step up in his absence. There's going to be a lot of competition. There's going to be players that will push him. We talked about Muse, we talked about Shoulders, even Devin Williams, another Temple or Tulsa transfer. That's going to be someone who pushes him for time. So Stephon Johnson has an opportunity, but there are definitely guys behind him that will push him if he's not ready. Tristan Davis has an opportunity after coming from Southern and producing at a high level to showcase what he can do at a Power 5 program. When you look at what this team needs, they need to stop the pass a lot better. The secondary had so much potential 2 years ago, and it tanked really fast. Fritz and this staff have done a great job at Tulane of elevating their defense, and their secondary has been playing a big role. And this is not just a secondary that's going to just sit back and cover guys deep. They are going to be involved in the run game. They are going to be involved in various different things. And Davis could be a guy that you're going to see thrive with this new staff. Another underrated player to me is Stacy Sneed. Again, there are so many new faces that you could put on this list. Stacy Sneed to me has been underappreciated at Houston, and he is someone who continues to just show up and put in the work. 282 yards last year, 1 touchdown, 95 yards receiving, another score. He is a great backup option, can also be your starter when needed, but he is someone who definitely deserves a lot of love, definitely deserves a lot of attention. And yes, there could be a number of other guys you put on this list, especially when you look at this roster. The transfer portal additions that this staff was able to bring is a long list. But again, how many of those guys are going to be able to contribute? I think that you did a great job when you're looking at this staff and what Willie Fritz did. You brought a number of players in that revamp this roster, but a guy like Sneed, who has that experience, who knows what it takes to get the job done, it's a little bit of edge or someone who's coming in new. But Houston has a lot of talent. It's just a matter of what can Fritz and this staff do to turn things around quicker, or at least sooner rather than later.